Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Benchmade Full Immunity, which, I could have just read the specs, but I didn't, and I feel like a lot of people were really surprised at how small it was. Now, this is fine because there are plenty of people that are either forced to carry smaller knives because of hilarious laws that do nothing, or they just prefer smaller knives, and that's fine. There are definitely people who like to carry smaller knives, or maybe their occupation requires or heavily suggests that if you're going to carry a knife, it needs to be smaller. So that's fine. But I was surprised by the size. This is a knife that is available, so I will link it down in the description so that you guys can check it out if you want to. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thank you so much to Benchmade for providing this knife for review. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and measure it. Just a little baby boy. And there's a partial immunity that's even smaller. Let's go ahead and measure it here. Gotta close one eye. 5.85 inches. Blade length, 2.5. Cutting edge, it's like 2.3 maybe. This is one of those knives where, in the United States, if you are traveling, going over, in Kansas, whatever, doesn't matter. They don't care. They're like, yeah, you would carry around a battle axe and it's automatic and fire comes out of it. Sure. Knock yourself out, pal. Carry it wherever you want. But if you're traveling, over state lines where you got some states where they'll throw you in jail for carrying a rolling pin, or not really, but hey, is that a sharp object that you're carrying in your pocket? Jail. Do not collect $200. Do not pass go. Crazy, right? But this is a lot of times this is why companies like Benchmade make smaller knives, because there are stupid laws. So yeah, how about we do some size comparisons here before I start ranting. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. God, that's a big knife compared to the Immunity. There we go. Rat 2, also absolutely humongous compared to the Full Immunity. How about up against the Demco AD 20.5? There we go. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Yep, small. And last but not least, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Outs. All right. How's the action on this guy? I always hear people saying, Benchmade doesn't have good quality control. Those are people who are either just like, I became a part of the internet knife community, and it seems like there are people who are upset with Benchmade, so I am also going to be upset. What are they saying? Benchmade quality control. Okay, so I don't like Benchmade quality control. Yeah, it's just wrong. I have tons and tons of videos on newer Benchmade knives. I have watched their quality get better and better and better to the point where it's just phenomenal now. And I have a local store here in town where I can go down and handle their newest stuff without assuming that Benchmade is just sending me their nicest stuff. Benchmade has excellent quality control. Not only is it not a recent thing, right? It was like years ago that their quality control was even kind of sketchy, right? No, this is another example. This is beautifully machined. These are aluminum scales, but contoured, diamond textured. Fit and finish is phenomenal. The final cutting bevel is phenomenal. The finish on the blade, phenomenal. Everything is great. There's no stickiness in the lock. The blade is centered, right? The blade locks out completely and totally solid. This is not a fall shut knife. Somebody was saying for that much money, it should fall shut. Well, it's small. I think people forget that a lot of times what's assisting a blade to be fall shut, not that fall shuttiness is any measure of quality or value. That's most of the time a preference, right? Obviously, there's a line. As long as the blade operates as intended, right, that's where it should be. which this does. But there's a couple of things. We did get a little bit of stick there. I want to see if that's consistent. If I fire this thing out really hard, that way it's fine. I'm going to see where the line is. No stick there. Gave it about half, nothing there. Gave it about a little bit more. If I fire this thing really hard, there's a little bit of stick, but it feels like maybe it'll work itself out. Let me give it a good one. Nope, now it's fine. Really trying to give it a good go. Sometimes it wants to stick. It's sticking a little bit here. And other times it doesn't really want to. I would venture to guess that the lock bar, the axis bar, is just working itself in, which is the case with any axis bar knife. So, okay. But no, fit and finish, very good. Action is what I'd expect considering the blade is small and lightweight. A lot of times drop shuttiness can be attributed to the weight and mass of the blade, and also usually in combination with bearings, which is not what this is on. It's on washers, which is great. Many people prefer washers. If you are new and you're confused, you have somehow been led to the conclusion that knives with bearings are of higher quality than knives with washers, or that bearings are just like a more expensive or more exotic thing, and therefore they only belong on expensive knives. No, that's not right. There are tons of like multi-$1,000 custom knives that utilize washers. The internal pivot system is preference. It comes down to what the design is meant for. Washers will keep debris out of the pivot better. Generally, the action isn't quite as fall shutty as a bearing operated knife, but bearing operated knives give you that feeling of like a luxurious, fall shutty action. Neither of them are like, only high quality knives have bearings, right? No, that's wrong. You got to get off the line of thinking that way. Benchmade traditionally uses washers because Benchmade knives, generally cater to the user community. And while not everybody works in a dirty or dusty enough environment for the pivot internals to make that much of a difference, those who do will tell you that they will only use washer knives. Only, right? And that there are plenty of offerings in multiple price tiers that utilize washers. So don't get stuck on that line of thinking. It's nonsense. But yeah, this is not going to be a fall shutty knife. Now you can pull that back and it does want to drop, right? So the action is plenty smooth. 7.5 minutes into this video, plenty smooth, right? Operating the knife is a little bit awkward because there's so little handle to hold on to. I find myself having to adjust a little bit. I also, when I'm trying to brace the knife so that I can pull down on the axis bar, I'm finding it a little bit awkward to not like throw it or drop it on accident. It's just really small, right? If your hands are smaller or you're just used to operating a smaller knife, you might have a different experience with me. But this is a lot smaller than I'm used to manipulating, so I find it to be a little bit awkward. I think that it would be substantially better if the blade were just a little bit bigger. And honestly, if it were me, I would want it a lot bigger. But we'll get to that here in a second because that's really just preference. Okay. Carry profile, thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. This knife is fairly thin. It would be even thinner if they didn't do a lipped liner. I'm kind of glad they did though, because I think it would be too thin or little if they had not done that. So it's actually still a little tiny bit thinner than the Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here that we probably don't need to do this. This is going to be an easy knife to carry, right? I don't know, but if you wanted to see it, there it is. Okay. Hardware check. Let me get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. As is the case with almost all Benchmades, at least all the recent ones. The pivot is going to be a T10, which is wonderful. Benchmade always doing awesome with their pivots, and they've got D-shaped pivot barrels, so that's really great. And then we have, also as per usual, a whole bunch of T6 screws, right? Now, because this isn't a cartridge liner, you don't have one in the middle, which I think is nice, right? We have one for the stop pin, which this is unnecessary. The stop pin can just be fit or like pushed. It can just be lipped into either side. We don't really need screws that go out here, but okay, fine, whatever. There's a couple of screws out here that hold the frame together and a couple of T6 screws for the pocket clip. More than what I'd consider to be minimal, but it's not that big of a deal. And, they're not T8, they're T6, but okay. Benchmade doesn't dump Loctite all over the screws anymore, so it should be pretty easy to take apart. This is an axis lock knife. Anybody who's taken these apart before knows that it's not as simple as taking apart something like the Rat, a liner lock, right? It's doable. It's far from impossible, but if it's going to be your first time, it's frustrating. So have a place to put your hardware. This has omega springs. You're going to have to hold things in place and turn things and set things down and line up the pivot and all of that. I know it sounds like a challenge. It's not fun the first time, but if you practice, it gets a little easier. Either way, check with Benchmade before you disassemble your knives, so that you're not, voiding the warranty or anything like that. Anyways, let's measure blade stock thickness real quick. Blade stock thickness is coming in at about 90 thousandths. So pretty darn thin. It's about the same as the bug out. That's fine. Weight. Can imagine it's not going to weigh very much. I'm probably in the low 2s, mid 2s. There we go. 2.43 ounces. All right. That's fine. That's just not a heavy blade. In fact, the ratios are still, what did we say the blade length was? 2.5 inches. It's actually a perfect, yeah, it's even less than an ounce an inch. It's fine. Okay, it's time for the meat and potatoes. Yeah, it's small, but my goodness, what a gorgeous knife. I was really excited about this when I saw pictures. Now, my teeny tiny brain that it didn't have enough brain cells to go and just look at the specs. I just assumed that it was a lot bigger. But either way, I'm glad that I didn't go look and then just write this off like, oh, it's a tiny knife, I'm not interested in it, because it would have robbed me of the opportunity to see exactly how beautiful this thing is. These are contoured aluminum scales that have been diamond textured. The machines that contour this material are not cheap. This is actually a pretty complicated process as far as I understand it versus just, like the machines that just mill the flat material. But they did a great job with this and it looks good. I also like the finish on the blade. It's important to point out that this is in CPM M4. It just came out of the gate with a steel that's usually reserved for special edition knives, right? But then again, Benchmade has had plenty of regular production knives in M4, which is a fantastic steel. If you don't live in an area where corrosion is a problem, right? Like if you live like on the coast of Florida or you like live in the ocean, in a pineapple under the sea or something like that, if you then M4 is not going to, SpongeBob SquarePants is not going to be carrying an M4 blade. Let's put it that way. But here in Kansas, yeah, that's fine. And if it's coated especially. M4 is like the edge retention of M390, but substantially tougher. To my knowledge, Benchmade heat treats this stuff really well. So that's cool. The blade, this is a small, super tough Wharncliffe. And I really, really like the contouring and texturing on the scales. I also love the color. I called this coppery in another video, but it's not. It's bronze. They also have like a dark blue and then like a toxic nuclear yellow, like an irradiated yellow, which is okay. That's fine. Ergonomically, for the 3 fingers that fit on it, and you're going to be keeping those in one specific spot, yeah, it's fairly comfortable. I find myself immediately, hopelessly, desperately wishing that it were bigger. Now, I'm going to say that a lot during this video. It doesn't mean that I think that they should not make the small one and only make a big one. Obviously, I think it's a good idea that they have smaller knives for people who either need them or just prefer them, right? I'm not going to say that because I like a knife that's bigger, that doesn't mean that, everybody should. No, some people are just going to prefer a smaller knife. I want to have all 4 fingers on the knife, and this one's got a pinky hanging off here. As far as 3-finger grip knives go, it's plenty comfortable. And because Benchmade, is smart enough to realize that they don't need big, crazy clips on their knives, they've put one of the best clips that, is available in 2023. It's their deep carry clip, which they have on their tagged out, their bug out, and a bunch of other knives, right? It's just an awesome, awesome clip. It's the clip that I, if I were to be customizing a knife on their custom shop, which this should definitely be a part of, I would be picking that clip every single time, right? Ergonomically, I think it's great, offers really, really good control, and this blade shape is excellent. As far as, the nice thing about a blade this size, especially with this blade shape, is the blade is a perfect utility shape, right? And I know there's always going to be those people who chime in, why don't you just go with a utility knife? Oh, I'll tell you why, because they're boring, right? We're here because we got tired of those. It's not like we just fell out of an idiot hole in the sky like, Gee, what should I do first on my first day of existence? I know, I'll go buy a $280 pocket knife because I don't know better. No, we started with the boring stuff, got tired of it, realized that a lot of this stuff still has the exact same level of utility, but it's just cooler. That's how you end up here. It's really simple. I feel like even the people who complain or say stuff like that, they know that, but they just like to say it anyway. Shut up. Nobody cares about your Milwaukee Fastback. Anyways, yeah, the blade is very, very utilitarian. It works really, really well. And you get the joy of something that looks better than a Milwaukee Fastback or Husky, whatever, budget jar at Home Depot knife. You get the benefit of having something that has a better blade steel that'll last longer, right? As long as you treat it properly and you don't try to like mortar and pestle a brick into powder with your knife, right? As long as you don't try to do anything like that, you'll be good to go. The coating looks nice. Everything just looks really, really great. And being able to do utility cuts like draw cuts or just simple everyman cuts throughout the day, this blade will be fantastic at it. Really, really good. In fact, gripping the knife like this, and instead of using all 4 fingers down here, which is something I like to be able to do with all of my knives, but I find that day to day, it's much more likely I'll do a cut like this. And this knife is perfectly accommodating for this grip. So if you find yourself doing this a lot and doing draw cuts, holy crap, is this thing comfortable. It's really nice. This will make a fantastic utility EDC folder. It works really well until it comes down to general manipulation, and then it's a little awkward and you might accidentally drop it off the side of a boat or a building or whatever, right? If you're using it in a utility setting where you're needing to do work and stuff with it. But yeah, it depends on the grip. Fit and finish, like I said, is perfection. This is a beautiful, beautiful knife. And while part of me really wishes that they had done a nested liner or just done like a cartridge liner and then sunk it into the aluminum, had they kept the aluminum scales the same thickness, the entire blade would be thinner and it would have just felt a lot more delicate. Of course, they could have used thicker aluminum and just nested the steel into the frame, right? Either way, I'm not super upset that it's just like milled out steel on the inside. It's fine. Not that big of a deal. There's a lanyard hole, obviously, because it came with a lanyard attached. I'm going to assume these all come with lanyards because this one did. If I had purchased this, the first thing that I would do is chop this lanyard off because I don't need it. But some people might, and considering it's so small, this might actually help. Getting it in and out of the pocket, maybe. I don't know. I would still use the clip because that works just fine. This is an ambidextrous knife. The axis lock is an ambidextrous lock, and there is a mounting position for lefties on the other side of the knife, which is really fantastic. I really, really like that. No blade play, up, down, left, or right. It's like I said, there's no lock stick. If I'm just like deploying the knife like this, there's absolutely no lock stick whatsoever. Even like a light deployment, there's nothing. And here, that's about 50%. Very minimal stick. It's only when I'm firing this thing like as hard as I can do I start to get any more than that. So I don't really want to complain too much. Stop pin located in its traditional spot. Absolutely no hint of play, up, down, left, or right. No pivot lash. As smooth as I would expect for an axis lock running on washers, right? And we have a centered blade. That's really great. 18 minutes and 15 seconds. He probably never talks about the price, right? There's going to be a whole bunch of people who didn't make it more than 3 minutes into this video, and they're just screaming about how expensive it is, right? That's just, it's like a, it's a Benchmade. I now have to start yelling about the price, right? It's just like, it's like how they trigger the Winter Soldier. They tell them a bunch of codes, right? Except with these people, all you have to do is just say Benchmade at like a normal volume. Benchmade. And they're like, overpriced. Yeah, all right. Yep, thank you. Everybody has said that. We got it. And listen, I agree. I agree. It's expensive, right? Instead of screaming about the price tag, what I want to do is talk about how what I would pay for this, right? Or what they could do in a future model that would make me more willing to be a buyer. And then you can agree or not agree with me. But just screaming, like, I just imagine these people as cartoon characters where the eyes, like the pupils are like pointed in different directions. And they're just screaming absent-mindedly overpriced. Like, that does nothing. It helps no one, right? And it does, I know they're like, well, if we don't stop doing it, then they're just going to keep doing that. the prices are here. It doesn't look like the prices are coming down, right? I know that makes people feel like if they keep screaming, then something's going to change. I don't think so, guys. But I can tell you what form this could take that would make me want to buy it, right? Actually, it's unfair to say, because I'm about to say that I wish it was less expensive, right? So I guess I kind of agree. But my strategy is not screaming into the void. I just think that that's something that an idiot does. It's too much money. $270 is too much money. Yes, it's M4. Yes, it's made in the United States, like actually made in the United States, not fake made in the United States, right? Like some companies pretend to do, and they trick people all the time. But no, this is actually made in the United States. They also have an incredible warranty, which is absolutely worth pointing out. Benchmade has one of the best warranties on the market for folding knives, period. Their fit and finish is excellent. Their quality control is excellent, right? All of that being said, $270 is too much money for this, right? If you want me to pay, I want this to be less money, but let me tell you what it would take to get me to pay $270 for this. I think you would need to continue, obviously it needs to be an ambi clip, but not just a stamped out steel clip. You're going to have to do something a little bit more special, right? You did like a milled out, titanium clip or something like that. I'm just saying, like, if you want me to pay $270, this is going to have to be substantially more dressed up. I think scales that have been milled out to accommodate for some sort of nested liner system, right? You're going to have to get a little more complicated with the milling. I think the M4 blade is fine, right? Maybe a milled backspacer. You're just going to have to add a bunch of stuff to it. That doesn't necessarily make it a knife that I want, though. Me personally, it's fine if you want to keep making this. I think, it's not like anything that we say is going to get Benchmade to bring the price down. It's just not going to happen, right? But if you had made a much larger one, in my book, this is about a $200 knife, right? Maybe I could like just kind of squeeze out an extra $25, just ouch, maybe $270. Wow, we got American competition like Hogue that are making knives with maybe not M4, right? But they're using MagnaCut, 20CV, right? Aluminum, G10, carbon fiber, and they're charging quite a bit less. So yeah, really hard for people to choke that down. Now, I'd be willing to pay that butterfly markup for me, right? If we had a larger family member. It's fine to continue to make the full immunity and the auto immunity and the partial immunity, and that's fine. That's fine. You got a bunch of little tiny knives. Make a bigger one. Make one that's, the size of the tagged out, but make it like this. I'd be much more, I still wouldn't feel like it's a $270 knife, right? And if they do it, you can guarantee it's not going to be $270. They'll charge a lot more money for it, but I'd pay $270 for like an 8 1/4 inch version of this. Exactly the same. Man, that would be so awesome. This knife would be spectacular for me, and I think a lot of people if it were just larger. But again, I think it needs a larger family member. Not, like get rid of the small stuff and only make the big stuff. It's fine. There are people out there who like smaller knives. But I would like a larger one. I want one of these that's about the size of the Ritter Hogue. That's what I want, right? Which, is an American-made pocket knife now utilizing MagnaCut and in some cases carbon fiber for still less than this. So give me one that's bigger. I think that'd be really great, right? And we're still catering. Then we're catering to even more people, and it's just easier. I know like bigger knife doesn't equal bigger money. I always make fun of people for thinking that, right? But it's a little easier to choke it down. So this. The positives here is that it's a beautiful knife, and it's an excellent example of what Benchmade is capable of in terms of machining and just overall quality, execution, right? It does have nice materials. You can't be like, it's just aluminum, because just aluminum looks like a flat, unfinished block of just Type 3 hard-coat anodized aluminum. This is contoured and beautifully textured, and it's obviously machined to fit everything perfectly. Right? A little bit more complicated Not a lot, but a little bit. It does cost more money to do that, even with Benchmade being a company that mass produces knives. But they are mass producing knives. And there's other companies who are mass producing knives in the USA that are just charging quite a bit less money. So it's just too much money. I mean, it is. I mean, as much as I made fun of the people with their eyes pointed in different directions screaming at the void, it's too much money. I mean, it is. It's just to put a little bit more meat and potatoes to that, it just is. We have too many examples out there that are, providing incredible, it's just insane competition, right? It's not like they're beating them out by a few bucks. They're beating them out by quite a bit, right? I don't get it. Again, though, it's like if we're going to do that, we're going to jump to the easy criticism, which is it's too much money, right? You could say that about anything. I would pay $270 for the same thing, but larger. It would appeal to me more, and I feel like some people might do that. I would still consider it to be a bit overpriced. I think a fair price for a larger one might be something like $245, even considering inflation and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah. I really, really wanted to be excited about this one because it seemed like it was going to be excellent. But I was gritting my teeth for the price tag already, and that was before I realized the size of it, right? If you like small knives, I think we should finish this off by saying who this is for. If you're a big fan of Benchmade, if you really love small knives or you're forced to carry a smaller knife, right? And you really love American products, you're going to love this. You will love it. If I checked 3 boxes right there, you love Benchmade, you love American products, and you either have to carry or just prefer to carry smaller knives, you are going to love this. That $270 price tag is not going to sting nearly as much. I think even you will notice. It's not like you just, oh yeah, that's nothing. But you're going to love this. For everybody else, though, you just have too many options. There's too much competition for this to be overly justifiable for the average person, right? I mean, $270 that's a lot of money. I don't care who you are, right? It's still $270. But yeah, this channel is no stranger to expensive knives. I'm sure within 5 days of this video, I'll have reviewed a knife that cost over $2,000. That's part of it. But that doesn't mean that I'm not able to identify when something is just too much money for the caliber that it's in. So that's how I feel. Everything laid out on the table. Benchmade gave me this knife, which I always have to point out to people, who think that if the knife is provided for review, he's only going to say nice things about it. Nope. Not true. There are things about this knife that I like, though. It's just really hard for me to recommend it. I will be giving this knife away as part of my 300,000 subscriber giveaway. If you didn't know that, then now you do. Yeah, absolutely. It'll come with the box and everything like that. Thank you again to Benchmade for providing it to me for review. This will be linked again down below in the description if you want to check it out. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.